Can we go ahead, honorable members? Thank you so much. We are going to do the administration of oath, General Vuma. Let me say to you that you have been invited before this ad hoc committee, which investigate the allegations that have been made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Provincial Commissioner General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, with the hope that the information that you give here will help the committee in its oversight and investigative work. The allegations include, amongst others, one, the alleged unlawful disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team, otherwise known as the PKTT, or the NPKTT. Number two, alleged moratorium on the filling of vacancies within the South African Police Services, the SAPS. And number three, alleged corrupt relationship between senior leadership within the SAPS and members of the public. And lastly, alleged political interference in the work of the SAPS. In extending invitation, the chairperson of the ad hoc committee had indicated to you that you may provide such information to the committee if you so wish under oath in terms of the powers, privileges and immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act of 2004. General Vuma, please be informed that by law you are required to answer fully and satisfactorily all the questions lawfully put to you, or to produce any document that you are required to do so in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry, notwithstanding the fact that the answer or the document could incriminate you or expose you to criminal or civil damages or civil proceedings or even damages. General Vuma, you are, however, protected in that evidence given under oath or affirmation before a House or a Committee of Parliament may not be used against you in any court or place outside Parliament, except in criminal proceedings concerning a charge of perjury or a charge relating to the evidence or documents required in these proceedings. Please be aware that in terms of Section 17, subsection 2 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, a person who willfully furnishes a House or a Committee of Parliament with information or makes a statement before it which is false or misleading, commits an offense and is liable to a fine or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. You are required to take an oath or affirm that the evidence you are about to give is truthful. Which one do you elect, oath or affirmation?
Oath, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. You have elected to take oath. May you please follow me as I dictate. May you please say I and state your names in full.
I, Francinah Ntombenhle Vuma,
Swear that the evidence I shall give
swear that the evidence that I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
And so help me God.
And so help me God.
Thank you so much. You are under oath. I'm going to hand over back to you and the evidence leaders to proceed with the presentation of evidence. And I want to take this opportunity and wish you all the best. Thank you so much. Can I check Advocate Arendse, how much time do we need to conclude the presentation of evidence?
Until lunchtime, 1 o'clock, Honorable Chair.
Will we be done by 1?
I believe so.
I'm going to plead with my honorable members to make the list of interjections so that by that time we should be done. And they have enough time. We have 1 witness today. If we use our time frugally, each one of us can have adequate time with the general. Yes. Thank you so much. Advocate Arensend General Vuma, it is in your hands.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My colleague, Advocate Mkhize, will lead the witness. Thank you.
Good morning, Lieutenant General.
Good morning, advocates.
General, we are at paragraph 1 of your statement. Could you please tell the committee what your role, what your employment history is within the SAPS, including when you joined?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I'm an Irish female who was employed by the South African Police Service from the 20th of July, 1987. I've worked through the ranks in the SAPS over the years, and up until in 2017, December, I was appointed as the Deputy National Commissioner in the South African Police Service, and I held the rank of a Lieutenant General since then. Safe to say that in order to not to dwell too much, I was suspended on by the current National Commissioner on the 8th of July 2022. The suspension, which was never uplifted for a period of 3.5 years, up until I retired by the 1st of February 2026. Following my suspension in July 2022 by General Masemula on the 13th of July, to General Masemula, together with the head of counterintelligence, Brigadier Moyane, they raided my office and they took all the documents that were in my disposal in my office. I think that's my background.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant General. You say that you were employed at the SAPS until you retired on the 1st of February. But on the date of your retirement, you had been on suspension. Were any disciplinary proceedings instituted against you? And before you answer that, what were you suspended for?
Okay. I was suspended by General Masemula on a matter of IPIT, where in 2017, December, I was called by the National Commissioner, by then it was National Commissioner General Ketla Sithole, to a meeting in Courtyard Hotel. And I must also say that earlier on that day, I attended a meeting at GCIS where the National Commissioner was supposed to attend, but he called me that he's got another meeting to attend at Courtyard Hotel in regard to intelligent matters. So he attended that meeting. On my return to the office, the National Commissioner called me and inquired whether I was back. And I responded, yes, I was back. He said to me he was trying to get hold of General Tsumane, who at the time was the Deputy National Commissioner.
Perhaps, General, I don't mean to interject. We will get into the details.
Okay.
We'll get more into detail regarding your suspension. Just the question relates to what was the charge? What were you suspended? What was the reason you were given for your suspension on the charge sheet? What were you charged with?
Okay, thank you very much. The charge was based on the Judge Davis court judgment, where it was said, myself, General Stoll and General Tsumane, we have breached the IPAD Act by not providing IPAD with information in regard to the investigation they were conducting.
Thank you, General. Were you then disciplined?
The National Commissioner appointed a Lieutenant General to take me to an expeditious process. Okay, I was never, the case was never.
Okay, thank you, General. We'll again get into more detail later. We are now at paragraph 5 of your statement.
Okay.
Can you outline the progression through the DNC roles starting from 2017?
When I was appointed during December 2017 as a Deputy National Commissioner, I was appointed in a position of being the Deputy National Commissioner for Management Advisory Services. That position was the office that was directly in the office of the National Commissioner, which was responsible for strategic management, corporate communication, audit management, risk management, statistics, research, amongst others. Those were the components that were directly responsible, together with the CFO function and inspectorate. Then I was later moved from that position to a same Deputy National Commissioner, however, responsible for asset and legal management. In that position, I was responsible for the function of the CFO, which was still called Division Financial and Administration Services. I was also responsible for supply chain management. I was responsible for technology and management services, as well as legal services. By the December 2020, there was a new structure that was approved in the SAPS. The purpose of that structure was the National Treasurer was cutting the compensation budget as a result that it was said SAPS was top heavy. In other words, we had too many Deputy National Commissioners and other Lieutenant Generals in the senior management level. So it was becoming difficult for National Treasury to fund South African Police Service at a lower level because the structure was top heavy. So part of the compensation budget was eaten by senior managers. So a structure was designed and which streamlined the Deputy National Commissioners. At the time there were 6, they were cut into 3. So most of the functions were condensed into these new 3 Deputy National Commissioners. So National Commissioner appointed me in the position of support services, which took almost all corporate services divisions, as well as the same functions I was responsible for in the management advisory services, the same functions I was responsible for in the DNC for asset and legal management, as well as human resource management, which before that structure of 2020, those functions had a DNC directly responsible for them.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant General. You have now covered both paragraph 5 and 6 of your statement. At those paragraphs, you attach your curriculum vitae as annexure F NV1, and those can be found in the paginated bundle. From page 2 up until 19. That is where your CV is contained. So at paragraph 7, now that you have detailed some of your responsibilities within the 3 different departments that you oversaw from the period 2017 up until 2022, from paragraph 7 of your statement, you deal with the reasons for your You deal with the issues relating to the instructions by General Sithole. Who is General Sithole?
General Sithole was the National Commissioner of the South African Police Service, who was appointed, I think it was November 2017 up until end of March 2022.
Okay. At paragraph 7, you specifically say that, did you take any investigations before your suspension? Did you take any investigations within SAPS? And if so, on whose request? What was the nature of those investigations?
Thank you. I was tasked by the former National Commissioner, General Ketla Sithole, to conduct a number of investigations against mostly senior officials who were suspected of wrongdoing. And part of those investigations emanated from audits that were conducted in different business units. And as those audits get conducted, there will be irregularities that have been identified by the audit team. And the National Commissioner also delegated me to work directly, even though in terms of the audit charter and the other legislative framework, internal audit is supposed to be reporting directly to the Office of the National Commissioner. But in this instance, in the SAPS, as I said, that those responsibilities were delegated to my office as the DNC responsible for support services and corporate services.
Okay.
So there will be those investigations that we have, I have issued mandate for them to be conducted under forensic investigation audit. And then there will be those that we receive recommendations either from IPAD and other related investigative units, which required a further disciplinary process to be taken further.
Okay. At paragraph 8, you mentioned that the matters that you wish to bring to the attention of this committee relate to investigations you were part of and the various protected disclosures. Can you explain what you mean by protected disclosures? We are now at paragraph 8.2 of your statement.
Thank you very much. The protected disclosure is a process where you submit, you highlight certain challenges or certain, when you conduct a certain work and you feel that you are being harassed or victimized as a result of the work that you have done, or you suspect and you foresee that there might be such an attack, you submit a protected disclosure in order to avoid being occupationally, to avoid occupational detriment as a result of the work that you have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who, in this instance, in your particular case, who was victimizing you? Why did you have to make these protected disclosures?
I had to make a protected disclosure at a time during 2022 July, because there are a number of things that are observed were happening to me. For example, when the new National Commissioner was appointed, General Fanima Semula, from the 1st of April 2022, I had to brief him in regard to the work that I've been doing. Amongst others, I briefed him on the number of cases that I was handling and a number of cases that I have investigated, and also briefing him on the stages where those investigations were at. So there was I compiled a certain report, which it will be found as part of the annexures, where I highlighted the high profile issues that I deemed it necessary for the National Commission to be aware of. Amongst others, it was about litigation, civil claims. There were also some of the high-profile cases of the lieutenant generals that were pending in the SSBC. For example, there was a case of Lieutenant General Shezi. There was a case of 2 cases of Lieutenant General Jacobs. There was also a case of General Patlane. Although General Patlane's case was not in SSBC, but it was in the Labour Court, pending in the Labour Court. So as and when I explained to the National Commission about those cases, he responded to me that, oh, are you still busy with those cases? Why are you not dropping these things and leave them, not continuing with him? I explained, of course, the importance of them and why they needed to be finalized, to be taken further until to their finality.
Thank you, General. We will get into the specifics of the cases. It was just the question had more to do with the specific individuals that you say you had to make this protected disclosures for. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were at the time specifically at paragraph 8, and
Okay.
then we will take it. Yeah.
I made that protected disclosure and I addressed it to the President of the Republic of South Africa. I addressed it to the portfolio committee chairperson. At the time, it was the late Tina. I addressed the other one to the NPA, the other one to the IDEC, which is now IDEC. It used to be ID, Andre Johnson. The other one, I addressed it to IPIT, and the other one to the State Security, the then Mayor Majola.
Okay. Thank you, General. We are now at paragraph 10 of your statement. So the questions will be related to that section. You say at paragraph 10 that you believe that you possess knowledge and information that can assist this committee in its mandate. The question is, specifically in what ways do you believe your testimony can assist the committee in determining whether there has been systemic governance failures, oversight lapses, and wrongdoing? We are at paragraph 10.1.
Thank you. I believe that I have information that will be able to assist the committee as it is investigating the allegations that were pronounced on the media briefing on the 6th of July by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, the Provincial Commissioner of KZN. And interestingly, looking at the General Mkhwanazi's date of the 6th July 2025, I equally on the 6th of July 2022 also wrote this protected disclosure. Now it's 3 years down the line when I wrote a protected.
General, what must we make of that, the coincidence in the dates? Should we make anything of the dates that you highlight?
I believe that when General Mkhwanazi maybe had that media briefing, he knew about my protected disclosure that I did 3 years ago. He might have been aware that since after I made that protected disclosure, I received a negative treatment from my organization, which is the same organization that General Mkhwanazi is working on, where I was victimized by a number of cases being leveled against me, but not being taken for final conclusion. Where they are taken for final conclusion and I get the ruling in my favor, I was never given an opportunity to go back to work. So that is the significance I'm trying to highlight, that there is some similarities in regard to our date. It's 3 years down the line. when I made my protected disclosure and General Mkonazi 3 years conducted that media briefing statement, which highlights some of the irregularities that he might have observed.
So is the date coincidental or when you say there are similarities, is there anything that must be made of that, or you've just observed similarities?
I just observed the 6th of July.
Okay. So now, General, we are at paragraph 11 of your statement. At these paragraphs, you now deal with the protected disclosures that you had mentioned earlier. If we can then deal with the first protected disclosure, can you describe the circumstances surrounding your first protected disclosure? Specifically, when did you receive a briefing from supply chain management regarding the Telkom Towers building?
When I was appointed as the DNC in the position of being a DNC for asset and legal management, I had a discussion with the division supply chain management where I wanted them to give me all the briefings. So some part of the briefings related to the Telkom Towers that was purchased by the South African Police Service, obviously through Public Works. Now, in December 2017, when the National Commissioner was still new in the position, he equally wanted to know what has happened to the building of Telkom Towers since it was purchased in 2015. And according to those plans, by the 2016 SAPS should have already started to occupy the building, because part of the challenges that we experienced was over and above the building that has been purchased, there are other leases that are going alongside where head office divisions are hosted, which is a duplication in terms of the financial constraint. Because there is this building that has been purchased, which is not yet occupied. At the same time, SAPS continue to lease these buildings, while the main objective of purchasing that Telkom Towers was to alleviate the lease portfolio. Now, as they were briefing me, I realized that in their briefing, there is over and above the money that was paid for purchasing of Telkom Towers, there were other monies that were being requested by the Department of Public Works. There was also some of the money that was spent by SAPS in the installation of the infrastructure on the IT cables, etc., in order to make the building ready for occupation, so that when SAPS occupies the building, at least there are not going to be some delays waiting for the IT equipment to be installed.
What was the value of this contract?
We
are still at paragraph 11.
Okay, the purchase price was 695 million. And according to the documents available, there was 41 million where Telkom Towers bought back one of the buildings because they regarded it as their national key point. Now, over and above that money, there was a sort of an agreement with Public Works that Public Works will undertook to do certain minor repairs, such as repairing the lifts and the air conditioning systems and all those things, utilizing their budget. But as and when time progressed, they kept on requesting more money from SAPS in order to do those minor renovations. For example, during December, the National Commission called the DG and part of their officials who were responsible for this particular matter, where they agreed that firstly, they will make one tower ready. I think it's 9 towers in that area. So they will make one building ready for National Commissioner to occupy. They wanted 10 million in order to make that particular building ready for National Commissioner to start occupying from the 1st of April. That was the meeting in December. Now I was involved interacting with that.
At paragraph,
Come April, the building was not.
you may proceed.
Okay. Come April, the building was not ready. Now, National Commission, and they never communicated to the National Commissioner that the building was not ready. So by May, we occupied the building, National Commissioner and DNCs and many others. But when we checked, we discovered that they only utilized 10 million. I think it was for 2 floors that were bathrooms and only 3 floors where we occupied. And they are very, very small, those floors. It wasn't a lot of people that were there. So we occupied in May. While we were occupying those, that building, Public Works issued us with a certificate that that place is not occupational ready. We cannot be sitting in that particular building. Now, they wanted also another, there was a certain stage, they wanted a 95 million rand, which 95 was before tax. It ended up becoming 105 or 108, something like that. Thereafter, they wanted 460 million for them to make the buildings ready for us to be able to occupy, not even all the towers. Now, based on that, I requested a supply chain to compile a full presentation, a full report, full-scale report, so that we provide this information to the minister, so that minister understands the circumstances that and the challenges that we're experiencing with Public Works in regard to this.
Where can we find that report? Okay, we are at paragraph 12, general. We're taking it one paragraph at a time.
Okay.
Yes. And at paragraph 12, you annex FNV2. What is that is contained in FNV2? It starts at paragraph 20 of the paginated bundle.
The FNV2 is the information note that I requested supply chain to compile with all the details, and right from the initial presentation by or offer by the Department of Public Works for a proposal to purchase this particular building to be occupied by the South African Police Service, and how much has been spent so far. All these monies that I'm talking about, they are entailed in that particular information.
General, is the document that you are talking about is annexed, and it starts at page 20. At page 28 of the document, there's provision for 2 signatories. One for supply chain, Lieutenant General Mukwena, and the other for designated for yourself, FN Vuma. That information note is unsigned. What should we make of that? Do you have any comments regarding the information note?
Okay. This is the exact report that I'm referring to, which made me to really get worried on all these requests that Public Works was requesting additional fund, these monies, while they undertook in other documents to say that they will be able to make the building ready utilizing their own budget. So these monies went up to
The question,
1.6 billion. So I'm coming to your question,
yes.
Honorable Chair. The first signature was the compiler of the document, which was the Divisional Commissioner for Supply Chain Management, Lieutenant General Mukwena. And the second one was where I recommended, I wrote my recommendations in that particular space for comments, where I recommended that the matter, having realized all what is happening, I recommended that the matter must be referred to the DPCI, to the HOCs for further investigation, so that maybe there is clarity in regard to why the public works is not committing or doing what they committed to do. They keep on requesting more money. And at the same time, even after they utilized 10 million to repair that building, they still said the building is not ready for us to utilize.
Yes. Lieutenant General, the question had to do specifically with page 29.
Okay.
Before we can get to the contents of the document, we need to ascertain whether it's a document that was finalized. It has provision for your signature, and you have annexed it to as support to your paragraph. And the question is, should we make anything of the fact that this document is unsigned?
You should, because it is an official document, even though it is not signed. The signed documents are supposed to be in the archives of the South African Police Service. I requested this document from supply chain, and I thought they will give me the document that was signed, because all signatures that appears there were there, even up to the minister. There was a comment by the minister, there was a comment by the National Commission. Unfortunately, when I requested, they gave me the unsigned document. I don't know why.
Okay. So at paragraph 13 of your statement, we are still on your statement. Following this, this information note, what did Minister Cele request? What did Minister Cele do? According to your statement?
Okay. According to my statement, as I said in the info note, I recommended that the matter be referred to the HOCs, as well as the National Commission supported my recommendations. Now, the minister, before he even dealt with the document, he organized a meeting where he called the DG from Public Works together with his DDGs and all other relevant officials who were responsible for this particular matter. He also called, at a time when the purchase happened, the DNC for Asset and Legal Management was Lieutenant General Skete. He was also invited to the meeting. He also invited the Divisional Commission Supply Chain and the entire team that was responsible for facility management. He also invited Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, because the reason why General Mkhwanazi was the acting PC at the time of that particular meeting in KZN. He was not yet appointed as a full PC. So he invited him because during the time when Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi was the acting national commissioner, he was suspended for a year. When he came back, he was placed under where division supply chain was divided into two. So he was placed under facility management. So he was part of the team that was engaging with Public Works during that time of the purchase.
All right, Lieutenant General, at page 30 of the paginated bundle, as a supporting document, you attach a letter addressed to Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, and it's from Public Works, and it deals with the proposed acquisition of Telkom Towers. Is that what you are referring to?
Yes.
Explaining. And that was in his capacity as divisional commissioner. Facilities management.
Yes.
Now, moving on to paragraph 15, what did you subsequently do to protect yourself from personal and occupational detriment?
I must say that the recommendations that were on my information note was read in that bigger meeting by the minister, Peggy Cele, and he obviously wanted to ascertain and find out what has happened. So Public Works explained themselves and SAPS officials explained. And as SAPS officials from facility management explained, the minister got seriously concerned that so much money, over R1 billion, has been spent on a building that we are unable to occupy, and we continue to sit in different buildings and expending a lot of money in terms of leases. He then said, no, General Vuma is right. This matter must be referred to the HOCs for further investigation. So immediately after that meeting, I started to receive some threatening telephone calls asking me, or some people saying to me, I must stop that nonsense. Why did I say that matter must be referred to the HOCs? Some of the people will send me the very same information note and my comment. So realizing the risk and the exposure that I was now experiencing as a result of me recommending that particular matter to be referred to the HOCs, I decided to submit a protected disclosure to the National Commissioner at the time, who was General Sitole, which
Before you did this, you mentioned that Minister Cele distanced himself from the process. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
yeah, the minister concurred when the meeting was dismissed, but something strange happened when the file was received back. The minister, instead of concurring as he concurred in the meeting, he wrote a comment that the National Commission must see to finish how he handles that matter. So that was a very strange comment that was made by the minister.
Lieutenant General, where would he have concurred? Are you talking about the information note that
Yes.
you circulated?
Yes.
That information note that you provided the committee with is unsigned. So how would we verify that the minister did not concur, or just to corroborate what you are saying? How does, because we are dealing with a document that would have been a copy, but there's no activity on that copy.
I believe this parliament, because they are investigating these matters, which are very serious matters, have got the powers. They can be able to request those documents from supply chain. And I will understand why officials from supply chain did not give me the document that is signed, because I was on suspension. I requested this document when I was still on suspension. They were afraid that they will be fingered, because some of the people who were communicating with me were targeted. Some ended up resigning because they were regarded as being close to me.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant General. We actually moving at a very slow pace at the moment, and I'm worried that we might not cover your evidence. So if we can just stick to the paragraphs, and then we'll lead it that way. We are now at the second protected disclosure at paragraph 16 of your statement. You state that on the 5th of March 2022, Minister Cele sent the leadership of SAPU. Can you describe the event involving the minister and SAPU at paragraph 16?
Okay.
And you in your answer, you can also deal with the specific in exchange between you and the minister.
Okay. On the 5th of March, in the afternoon, I was at home. I was called by the leadership of SAPU who wanted to know where I am. And I told them I was at home. They said they are coming to fetch me. They are coming from the official resident of the minister, who has instructed that they must come and fetch me. So I went with them. On arrival in the residential house of the minister, they sat outside. I sat in the house with the minister, where the minister was highlighting, amongst others, complaining that because the National Commissioner appointed me at certain stage to investigate the circumstances of Lieutenant Colonel Kine, the circumstances under which he was killed, because the his protection was withdrawn, as well as the investigation that I conducted with regards to the crime intelligence having utilized the Secret Service fund to purchase PPEs. Where in those two investigations that I conducted, I recommended that Lieutenant General Jacobs must be disciplined. So General Cele was not happy with that, and he was saying, why did I finger that, or I recommend that Lieutenant General Jacobs must be disciplined. And I tried to explain to the minister that it was not me, it was the facts and the statement and the information that was presented to me that led to me making those recommendations. One other issue that we discussed, is a lot of things that we discussed, but I'll just mention a few, is the fact that he said before General Mfazi was appointed as the DNC, he had a very a better relationship with the National Commissioner. They used to meet on a bi-weekly basis and discuss issues. Since General Mfazi came to head office, those meetings are no more happening, and General Mfazi is even boasting in some instances, saying, yeah, it is clear manje ukuthi ubani ophethela. He also complained where he says that the National Commissioner was requested by him that he must take his chief of staff, who was a Major General at a salary level 14, and take it to salary level 15, where the National Commissioner refused. And while National Commissioner was submitting other recommendations for him to approve. And I explained to him that the issue of the chief of staff, I knew about it because the chief of staff was appointed in terms of the Public Service Act. So all Public Service Act officials, if there's any request for any situation such as this one, it needed to go to the Department of DPSA.
Okay.
So I explained that the matter was referred to DPSA. Okay.
Thank you, General, Lieutenant General. It was just to list those various things that you discussed. What was it usual? Did you have an appointment with the minister on this day?
I didn't have an appointment.
And when he then sent Sapu to fetch you, had this happened previously, or was this
It was for the first time, and being worried and concerned that this is happening in this fashion, the minister used to call me to his residence, but he will either call through the chief of staff or the National Commission, where he might have wanted me to come and discuss submissions from the office of the National Commission. But this one got me worried to such an extent that I decided to record that conversation.
Okay. And you then say that on or about May 2022, you experienced, you were being targeted and prejudiced by General Masimola. What was that in relation to? Can you explain the nature of the prejudice that you talk about at paragraph 17?
This is with regards to what I, amongst others, alluded earlier on, those that report that I submitted to the National Commissioner, where I highlighted some of the outstanding disciplinary matters for senior officers, where the National Commissioner was saying, I just leave these things, don't continue with them.
Okay. At paragraph 18, you have already given your testimony regarding who you addressed the second disclosure to, and those are set out at paragraph 18. However, you annex FNV 3, and that starts at page at page 101 of the annexures. At paragraph 19, you then say, so before sending the second disclosure, had you submitted similar disclosures to other law enforcement agencies besides the ones that you listed at paragraph 18?
Yes, I have submitted other protected disclosure over and above this one that I submitted on the 6th of July in 2022.
Which law enforcement agencies?
I submitted one to NPA and also to the state security.
And what is the status of those matters?
I never received any feedback, honestly.
At paragraph 20 of your statement, you say that you brought it to the attention, your life was under threat, and you brought it to the attention of the security state agency to whom you disclosed to that your life was in danger. And you attach annexure FNV 4.
Somewhere in the during 2021, I think yes, there were incidences that were happening around my house. My children will call me that there are cars standing around, and I was receiving some of the threats from telephone calls that I didn't know. So as a result of that, I was even at a certain stage called by Matebula, who said that there was a meeting that was organized by Minister Cele where they wanted to implicate me on the PPE that I have committed some irregularities. And when they realized that that particular matter was not going to succeed, he told me that they have decided to appoint a hitman to kill me. And I asked him, but he said, please, General, take this thing very serious. These matters are very serious. So I reported the matter to the National Commissioner, and the National Commissioner requested me to put a statement, the statement which I put, and I was called to some place where I had an engagement with people from state security who also confirmed the information that it is true. National Commissioner needed to make sure that he put certain measures to make sure that at least I'm not exposed to that threat that existed at the time.
Lieutenant General, the protected disclosure that you made, the second one, which is dated 2022, July the 6th, and you addressed it to the persons listed at paragraph 18. Did you receive any response from any of those persons listed at paragraph 18?
I never received any response from any of those that I mentioned today, except to say that somewhere, I think it was in 2020, late 2022, I think. The chairperson of portfolio committee did engage me, and she told me that she was planning to have a meeting to discuss that protected disclosure as a portfolio committee. She wanted to know whether I wanted to be there in person or she will do a virtual meeting. Then I said the virtual meeting will be fine. Unfortunately, she passed on before she organized that particular meeting.
You deal with this later in your affidavit, but now that we are at the relevant annexure, perhaps we can deal with the specific disclosures that you had made. These start at paragraph 105 of your protected disclosure. So if you can just deal with the topics high level.
Okay. The first one is investigation into the 2010 procurement of accommodation. The followed by the cohesion to procure PPEs from certain suppliers, the investigations that was tasked by the National Commissioner to conduct, the threat to my life, which I've already alluded to, the GREPA investigation, the IDT matter, the RT15 contract, the illegal instructions which I received from the CFO. And I equally at the next page list a number of the forensic audit investigations I was engaged on, which in my statement I highlight their final outcome as well as who they were implicating.
Okay. We're now at the section that you have, the topic of the section is political interference and undue coercion to procure PPEs from certain suppliers.
Paragraph,
23.
okay.
At paragraph 23, you say that during the state of the national disaster in March 2020, SAPS were expected to procure PPE. So from paragraph 23 onward, you deal with that. What role did the National Treasury play in identifying suppliers?
Okay, during the time when the state president declared the state of the nation disaster, the regulations were promulgated where the South African Police Service was expected to implement those regulations. Now, the National Treasurer had the transversal contracts of companies that were providing or were dealing with PPEs. Unfortunately, due to the demand at the time, most of those companies did not had stock available. Now, National Treasurer also published a media briefing where in that media briefing, they invited the companies and communities who can be able to supply PPEs to government to come forward so that they will be able to assist with the availability of the PPEs. And in their published, they also issued they attached the Treasury Instruction Note 8 of 2019-20, which was specifically designed for and issued for the procurement of PPEs on emergency delegations.
Lieutenant General, that note that you talk about the Treasury instruction, you have annexed it as FNV5.
Yes.
And it starts at page 122 of the paginated bundle. You may proceed.
Okay. So it was towards the end of the financial year because the state of the nation disaster was promulgated on the 15th of March. Now, most of in SAPS, let me talk about SAPS, we didn't have budget, for example, for those PPEs. However, I instructed that the CFO, together with General Nelson, goes and engage the National Treasury to assist us where must we get the money for the purchase of those PPEs. So the National Treasurer directed that we must look at the cost centers that are not going to utilize their budget by the end of the financial year. So we secured 140 million to purchase the PPEs. But unfortunately, the market was not, there was no stock in the market. Now, while I was, remember, there was an acting divisional commissioner at the time who was General Reed, responsible for supply chain management. So while I was in another meeting with General Ngwenya, we were in the board of Polmet, representing the National Commissioner. And unfortunately for me, I was the chairperson of that board. While I was conducting that meeting, Lieutenant General Ngwenya kept on pushing papers and giving them to me, saying these are the companies that come from Minister Cele, and the Minister Cele wants you to make sure that the orders are issued to these companies because these companies had stock. In real,
Did you action out what you were instructed, that you must deal with just only those that were issued by Minister Cele?
I didn't. Because I realized that she was obstructing me in chairing the meeting. I asked her that she must talk to General Reid directly and submit whatever she wanted to submit to General Reid, which she did. Later on, I checked after the meeting with Reid. Reid did inform me. I even have one page here with me, which I couldn't, which was missed by mistake when I was scanning the annexures, where she sent a message to Reid that here are the companies, these companies manufacture the PPEs, please make sure that you buy from them. She even told General Reid that those companies came from the minister. Now, General Reid, because he was frustrated since the PPEs were not available in the market, he went up to an extent of going to the China embassy to seek assistance. How can we obtain the PPEs? He told me that he did send his people to go and check the stock availability. The reason why now he was using that method of doing a due diligence before he even considered the companies is because out of this 140 million that I've just mentioned that we first used in issuing orders to the companies that were on the transversal contract, there was no delivery that was taking place, and we needed PPEs. Now there was no more money available because those orders committed that money.
What did Lieutenant General Reid do?
He sent his people to go do diligence to those companies, and they did not find any stock.
We are now at paragraph 26 of your statement.
Okay.
At paragraph 26, you state that Minister Cele berated you for not wanting to buy from the companies. How did this come about? You testified that the instruction was given to Lieutenant General Reid from Lieutenant General Ngwenya. How did you then end up getting involved and being berated by the minister?
Okay. The initial instruction that was given to us and General Reid was that we must centralize all the procurement of PPEs. Now, when National Treasurer gave those companies, General Reid and I realized that the provinces needed PPEs, and there were a lot of complaints, I must say, where members, when they were searching people out there, some people were refusing them to be searched by the police because they were not wearing PPEs. Now, we decided to decentralize, and we were busy emailing the letter to decentralization to all business units. General Ngwenya came and took us. We were in a meeting of National Steering Committee for COVID-19, which I co-chaired with General Ngwenya. He dragged us and said, the minister wants you. He took us to the office of the minister. And when we arrived at the office of the minister, we find General Masemula, General Libya, and General Ngwenya was there, and the chief of staff. It was myself and General Reid. The minister was very angry with us, shouting at us and saying, we don't want to buy PPE. We're saying there are no PPEs, but Ngwenya is giving us companies. We are not issuing orders. We explained what Reid has done, and I told the minister that we will not be coerced to purchase PPEs just because we wanted PPEs. There are processes that needed to be adhered. We received companies from national treasurers, and those companies we checked, they were not part of those transversal contracts. This is why, amongst others, we couldn't. But if they had PPEs, General Reid was going to follow another process of acquiring those PPEs from those companies. Then there was supposed to be a meeting thereafter. I'm sorry if I can elaborate further.
Yes, you may, but we don't
Okay.
actually have
All right.
enough
All
time,
right.
General, and I worry that you
I have
elaborate.
a lot of
beyond-
information.
Yes.
Mm. So there was supposed to be a meeting thereafter, which I think is critical with the National Commissioner, because the National Commissioner was not called in that meeting. So I called the National Commissioner and I told him that he must quickly come. We are not going, myself and General Rich are not going to attend to that meeting anymore. He must come and attend on himself because he was supposed to be in that meeting. And I explained to him what happened and that we were shouted by the minister as if we did not want to get PPE, and the fact that we decided to decentralize. So we went back to the office to centralize again, to issue another directive.
Thank you, Lieutenant General. At the next section, which starts at paragraph 28, the section is investigations are conducted as tasked by General Sithole. So you state that at paragraph 28 specifically, that during 2019, you were appointed to investigate allegations against Lieutenant General Ngwenya. What was the nature of those allegations and the outcome?
The nature of that investigation was that General Ngwenya is responsible for human resource, which included HRM and HRD, human resource development. She was responsible for all colleges in the country. So she took a child to a college who obtained license utilizing resources of the police. And there was a complaint regarding that. So I investigated that and General Ngwenya was suspended as a result of my investigation. However, even though finally she was never found guilty by the chairperson due to the fact that they said there is no rule in the police or any other policies that says public officials cannot utilize resources, but that was an unethical conduct that was done by General Ngwenya, because you cannot bring your child in the environment where you are working and make them benefit while others in the country are not benefiting. However, she was later dismissed.
Is
on
the
a
problem,
different-
sorry, General, you've just said that you cannot make your child benefit while other children in the country are not benefiting. If the other children in the country were benefiting, would her conduct be okay or permissible rather?
I'm saying even if there was no policy, but the fact that I am responsible for colleges and I am bringing my children to benefit, it can be correct. The point I'm trying to say is that I did not agree with the decision taken by the chairperson in that year.
Okay, but that investigation ultimately led to the report that you attach at FNV 6, and that starts at page 128 of the bundle. We then move on to the next question. At paragraph 29, you state that General Ngwenya subsequently was dismissed for matters relating to blue lights. Would you like to comment on that? What does that have to do with the investigation that you did, which had its own report and was finalized?
Here, I'm just mentioning that she was a DNC responsible for human resource management, but she was later dismissed on a matter that was not even under her responsibility, but she was involved in that particular matter, which was a blue light matter that was under the DNC asset and legal management. In other words, while she was HRM, she was encroaching in my space and doing certain works behind my back.
I see. General, at paragraph 30, you deal with the various, you detail the investigation that you conducted regarding Lieutenant General Jacobs. And Can you comment on the outcome of what was the what were you investigating and what was the outcome of the investigation? And how did Minister Cele, become part of this investigation?
During March 2020, Lieutenant General Jacobs purchased the tools of trade or of crime intelligence, which they utilize in their execution of their duties at the value of 120 million, which was coupled with the vehicles where those two tools were going to be installed. Now, I think it was in 2022 at the early, I instituted, because they were not utilized due to the fact that they did not obtain the exemption certificate that was supposed to be obtained. In fact, they should have, after they applied and everything was approved, they should have applied for the exemption certificate before purchasing, but they purchased before.
What were the tools of trade?
It was the interception equipment that they utilize in the crime intelligence environment, the grabber, so referred to as the grabber.
And what were they supposed to have done?
They should have first obtained, after authorization to purchase, they should have stopped there and apply for the exemption certificate, but they purchased and requested exemption certificate later. So the equipment was
Lieutenant General, that section is labeled investigations that you conducted against General Jacobs. When you say they, who are you referring to?
to General Jacobs. I'm referring to General Jacobs.
So he,
Yeah.
okay.
Now, when I discovered that those equipment are not being utilized, I was even taken on a tour by the crime intelligence officials when at a situation when I was acting on behalf of General Mfaz. They were gathering dust. So I instituted a fruitless and wasteful expenditure because it was almost 2 years when they bought the equipment and it was not being utilized. Even National Treasurer wrote us a letter in that regard.
Were there any steps taken against Lieutenant General Jacobs for that
I was still,
waste of expenditure?
I was still conducting that investigation when I was suspended.
At paragraph 31, you say in October 2020, you were tasked to investigate the circumstances surrounding the killing of Colonel Charles Kine. What was the outcome of your investigation?
The outcome of that investigation led to Lieutenant General Jacobs and others, not him alone, to be disciplined. Together with the one on paragraph 32, I'm trying to now to push in order to. It leads to those two cases, led to General Jacobs to go through a disciplinary process, which he took it to the council SBC. And at the same matter, which I referred earlier on that meeting of the 5th of March, is when General Cele was not happy with me, saying, why did I recommend that General Jacobs must be disciplined, etc., etc. However, interestingly, those two cases, as we speak, I think it is last year, General Masemola has withdrawn them.
Okay. Before they were withdrawn, you attach a document at page 155 of the bundle in support of your of your paragraph, and that is a report. Would you like to speak to that?
155.
Yes.
Oh, 155 deals, yeah, it is the investigation that was tasked by General Stoll emanated from the report he received from IGI, which my reports in this regards were, I couldn't, yeah.
You may proceed. Can then just move on from that paragraph. What you say in paragraph from that document, what you say in paragraph 33 is that you were summoned by Minister Cele regarding this investigation into General Jacobs.
Yes.
What did he summon you for? And
He was querying that why did I recommend that General Jacobs must be subjected to a disciplinary process? And I explained that it was not my own doing. It was based on the evidence that I gathered, as well as the statements that were provided, and on also what was expected of him, Jacobs, in the matter. So he did not do certain things, or he omitted to do certain things. Hence, my recommendations fingered him in that particular report. And it was not only him and others.
when he summoned you, specifically in respect of Lieutenant General Jacobs, is it common for a minister to get involved in matters, in operational matters?
It is not common, especially in regard to disciplinary matters. And a few weeks thereafter, after that encounter with the minister, I was also approached by a team of investigators from IPED, which was accompanied by a prosecutor by the name of Mr. September. So interestingly, in that, they were investigating the criminal matter, because after my report, I caused for the case to be opened, referred to IPED. Now they were investigating that particular case. Now, interestingly, is the same line of questioning and that I received from the Minister Cele also came from this team, which was a surprise for me. But I suspected that they had a meeting before they came to see me. And I did not investigate that matter alone. I had two other major generals who were assisting me in that matter. So we were all interviewed and we all stood by our findings.
What was the minister's, what was he hoping to achieve by calling you into a meeting specifically regarding General Jacobs? Did he inform you exactly what he was expecting of you in that meeting?
I think the minister wanted, my understanding at the time, wanted me to recall my report and change recommendations against Jacobs.
Thank you, Lieutenant General. We are now at paragraph 35 of your statement. This is the investigation regarding the removal of Major General Nkosi, whom you say was removed as the Chief Executive Chief Audit Executive. Can you comment on that?
Yes, Major General Nkosi was appointed as a Chief Audit Executive. So during his appointment, the panel that appointed him, there was a complaint which was investigated by the Public Service Commission. And Public Service Commission discovered that when they appointed her, she did not qualify, she did not have relevant qualifications as per the advertisement to be appointed. And the panel that appointed her was recommended that disciplinary steps must be taken against it. The General Nkosi also, the Public Service Commission report recommended that she must be demoted to a brigadier. However, SAPS decided to keep her in that position and be given an opportunity to acquire those qualifications while acquiring experience at the same time.
So what was Minister Cele's stance on this?
She was appointed in 2012, but up until in 2022, there were still those reminding us from Public Service Commission to find out has she completed those qualifications, but she hasn't. So the minister was not happy with the removal of Brigadier Nkosi, Major General Nkosi, as the audit executive, because she was moved to a position of the same level, Major General, because SAPS felt that she has been in that position for a very long time. And even though she failed to acquire the qualifications as that was what was required of her, but it will not be human to demote her.
What was the outcome of that investigation?
The investigation was that, as I said, General Nkosi was supposed to be demoted, but SAPS took it on a humanitarian reason.
Yes, you state that you investigated it. What was your outcome of the investigation? What did you find upon the completion of your investigation?
That was not my investigation. It was the Public Service Commission investigation.
Okay, we can now move on to paragraph 36 of your statement. At paragraph 36, you say that around March 2022, there was a committee meeting. What of the Minister and MEC's committee meeting held in Durban? What instruction did Minister Cele give you at this meeting regarding the IDT?
During the MINMEC meeting that was held in Durban, the minister gave me a directive that I needed to engage with the deputy minister, and we look into the possibility of utilizing the IDT in the infrastructure to assist the SAPS with the infrastructure development, which is the building of the police station, in order to fast track the backlog of the building of the police stations. The process, which was based on a particular treasury, treasury instruction note. So I did the work together with the DM and the team, and after finalizing the work, we compiled a recommendation and information note to General Masemula, which he needed to approve. Now, during the next MINMEC, which was in June 2022, in East London, I presented that outcome of the project, and the meeting was happy with the presentation, and I even indicated that the information note for rolling out that particular project was with the National Commissioner, which needed to be signed off. Now, when we came back from that particular meeting, the National Commissioner said to me, he wanted me to change certain paragraphs or sentences. For example, one of the things he wanted me to change was that I must not say that the directive that I received was given to me by the minister. And I said to the National Commissioner, no, it can't be, because this was in the open meeting. How can I say it was not him? And he also wanted, can't even remember now because I'm talking from my head. Then he said, you must be careful of Mr.
Lieutenant
Atai.
General, you don't have to talk from your head. You can actually go to your statement. We are at paragraph 39.
39.
Yes. And there are relevant annexures. So you can just read from your statement.
Yeah, and then he said, yeah, you
No, Chair, you can't say we're at paragraph 39. She was going to talk to paragraph 37.
37 years.
What had happened, Honorable Member, is that the witness spoke about paragraph 36, then she jumped to paragraph 40 to talk about the second meeting, and then she went back to 37, but I'm now bringing her back to where she was starting. And the purpose of that is to take her to the annexure that she relies on. So she, in her evidence, had just moved a couple of paragraphs. I was intending not to disturb her her train of thought, but I'm keeping a mark of where she is. You may proceed.
Okay, I also wanted to say that General Masemula made a comment to me that I must be careful of DM Castle Matale because he want to use this exactly a process to swindle funds in order to find the AFF. And I said to General Masemula, which is what made it strange because he wanted me to say the instruction never came from General Gelek. So in other words, he wanted it to look like it came from Mr. Matale. Then I said, no, I'm not aware of what he was insinuating, and I don't want to mix my responsibilities with the politics that you are telling me about. I will not change that. And he made it very clear to me that your stubbornness is going to cost your career. Then I said, so be it, General, because there are witnesses that were there in the meeting.
You then state that at paragraph 38, what was your response to General Masemula's insinuation?
I told him that I'm not aware of what he was insinuating, and I also don't want to mix my responsibilities with what he was politicking about, and I will keep those paragraphs as they are because these matters and directives were given to me in an open meeting.
Okay. This suspicion that General Masemula had regarding Deputy Minister Matale's intentions, was there anything to support those allegations?
There was nothing except that he said those things to me.
So in the conversation, did you probe further to ascertain why he was involving politics in a meeting that had to do with contracts and infrastructures? Where was the suspicion coming from?
I told him that I didn't probe further except that I felt that he threatened me that your stubbornness, because he wanted me to remove that particular sentence that I received a directive from the minister. And he was trying to convince me that by saying that the statement that I must be careful of Mr. Matale, but there was nothing to me that was projected by the Deputy M that he had certain interest in the matter. And the task was given to us with the minister, by the minister, with the DM, and the officials that I worked with from supply chain were responsible for facility management.
Okay.
Now,
So,
he threatened, I felt threatened, I didn't further. He said, your stubbornness will cost your career, so be it.
Okay. The information note that you rely on, which you then subsequently submitted, is annexure FNV 11, and that can be found from page 269 of the bundle.
Let me correct it, Honorable Chairperson. It is not, what I attached here is not the information note, because the information note was in the office of the National Commissioner. What I attached is a relevant document of how we engaged in order to arrive at that information note.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are now,
And if I may, if I know you are running for time, if I may, on that very same day when we discussed this with General Masemula, we were at Limpopo, and that was exactly on the same day when we arrived back from that meeting in Limpopo. We had another meeting in the evening until after 9. That's when he informed me that he is under pressure to suspend
To suspend who?
me.
Oh, okay. What was your reaction to that statement?
I asked him, oh, he said it was people from above, others from outside. I said, who? He couldn't give me who the names.
We are now at paragraph 41 of your statement. There you deal with unlawful contracts and instructions. You start with the RT15 contract, and you say that in April 2022, Minister Cele accused you of having approved and awarded a bigger part of the cell phone contract to MTN at the behest of Deputy Minister Matale. Can you give details of what was of this accusation? What led to the minister accusing you of awarding the contract to MTN, and why did he believe that it was at the behest of Deputy Minister Matale if you had not actioned out what he had asked you to do earlier, this Deputy Minister?
RT15 is a transversal contract that is entered into by National Treasurer. It is a cell phone contract. Now, this cell phone contract, the National Treasurer identified 4 big companies of cell phones and escalated it to all government departments to do their own processes according to their needs. So there was a process that was engaged here by supply chain together with TMS, Technology Management Services, in order to come to the conclusion. And they finally recommended for approval the MTN. Now, the minister was accusing me with regard to that why was the contract given to MTN? Because MTN did not have infrastructure as compared to what Vodacom had. Then I explained to the minister that it was not me, it was the process that the 2 divisions were engaged in that came up with those recommendations. And finally, it went to the BAC who approved it. But I also mentioned to the minister that not everything has been finalized as yet, because there was it's called voice on call, where there was a project, a pilot project where all these 4 service providers were given an opportunity to do a project concept. And I told him that they still need to evaluate that. Now, he said that this particular one that was given to MTN, even them, so he was called by Mr. Jonas, Mcebisi Jonas, who was also confirming what he was saying to me, that even though MTN got it, but they don't have sufficient infrastructure. Now, as this was proceeding and I was informing him about work that is still needed to be done, he said, I must make sure that the team that is evaluating that project is not finalizing that matter until he says so. I must keep on giving him feedback, constant feedback.
What was Mr. Mcebisi Jonas's role at Vodacom? Why was he complaining?
According to information, general information I have, Mr. Jonas is the chairperson of the board of MTN. So the way Minister Cele brought this in my own analysis, I think he was trying to convince me that even the very same people who got contract do knows and understand that they don't have sufficient capacity to deal with the contract. That was my assumption.
What was your explanation to Minister Cele regarding the process followed for the contract at paragraph 42?
I explained to him what the process followed by treasurer, and that treasurer submitted all 4 companies and said that a department can utilize any of the contracts or they can go through their own processes. So there was a process embarked on by TMS, and after TMS finalized, there was an evaluation committee based on the requirement of the service. And from there, it was escalated to the division supply chain in terms of a BEC. Thereafter, they brought it to the National Commissioner
Okay.
for approval.
In your paragraph, you say that Minister Cele instructed you to keep him updated and to finalize the matter and to keep him updated until the matter was finalized. What steps did you take to action this instruction?
The minister will, on a frequent basis, call me to his residence. For example, he will be calling me to explain certain submissions that came from the Office of the National Commissioner. And in the process of that, he will be asking me, how far is this matter? At times, when I go to his residence, I will find a lady by the name of Ntombenhle, whom he said I must also provide feedback to her with regard to this particular contract. Now, it became, this lady was calling me to such an extent that I decided to ignore some of the calls. Somewhere there was a WhatsApp where she called me saying the minister is not happy with me, says I'm moving slow with this matter. And there is an attachment of my response to her that a due process is being followed, etc.
Who is Ms. Ntombenhle and what was she to this contract? What was the relationship to this contract?
The Miss Ntombenhle is the person that I will find with at Minister Cele's residence. I believe that she was a relative to Cele. How she came into the contract, I didn't know.
Okay. You say that on June 30, 2022, what specific instruction did the minister give you? Did you action that instruction? You said earlier you ignored his interaction. Did you keep ignoring?
There were many.
How did you react?
There were many missed calls that when she calls, and at times she will call just to check, how are you, General Vuma? Because now I will always find her at the minister's residence. But when she asks me about, at times I will deliberately ignore these calls because I will know she will be asking me. But she, at certain stage, she will send me the WhatsApp where once I responded and explained that the full detail, the process is being followed. Maybe slow is fine, but this is the process. It's not me.
Did you escalate this to the National Commissioner?
Yes, I did.
Did he take any steps?
The national, my pardon, I didn't, because this was at a time when the National Commissioner was General Masemola. I didn't inform Masemola on this one.
Can you comment on why you did not? Because you've testified that Minister Cele put a lot of pressure on you to a point where you had to ignore because you felt that he was interfering in you executing your duties. And he even involved a civilian by the name of Ms. Ntombenhle who had no dealings in the SAPS. And you now found yourself interacting with this Ms. Ntombenhle sometimes at the minister's home or telephonically when she would regularly call you. Why did you not escalate this with to Commissioner Masemola?
I did not escalate this to Masemola because I knew that Masemola was not going to do anything. Masemola was listening to anything that General Cele said must happen. For example, the explanation I gave earlier on, where Masemola, the minister gives me an instruction in an open meeting, And Masemola comes and say, I must not say it was the minister. So I knew that the same Masemola was not going to help me.
So what must we make of that comment that the National Commissioner instructed you to do something that was not accurate and reflected what happened in the meeting? What do you wish to tell the committee by that statement?
I am saying to the committee that at times as officials, we find ourselves in a very difficult situation. You find yourself working as if you are between the rock and the hard surface. And when you are there alone, you don't know what to do in order to get out of that particular situation.
At paragraph 44, you deal with instructions that were by the CFO of SAPS, Lieutenant General Ntombenhle. Particularly, you say that General Ntombenhle approached you seeking approval of urgent payments of over 8 million to the SIU. This was on or around 22 June 2022. Can you comment? Can you comment on that? On that paragraph?
Thank you very much. Yes, I was approached by General Ntombenhle, who did not come in person but sent his staff officer to me that there is an urgent file that needed my approval. They wanted to pay SIU an amount of plus 8 million for the work that SIU was requested by SAPS to conduct. Now, I looked at the file. There was only one document in the file. The document was an engagement letter, which was written by SIU, and it was even unsigned. And it was I can't remember. It was saying SAPS requested an investigation on the 12th of November, and the SIU started to work on the matter on the 15th of November. It was also highlighting the resources that SIU was going to utilize in conducting that particular matter. Now, I called immediately the CFO and I asked, but where is the letter of request by SAPS? Where is the where is the response by SIU? Where is the report, final report? Because when we pay, we must pay on the basis that the work has been done. We don't pay in advance. And I also wanted to know where is the invoice, all the necessary documentations and the approval, of course, by the National Commissioner, because we cannot commit an organization to by the external survey, even though it is an institution, but the National Commission still must approve that, or authority rests with the National Commission. She said she requested those documents from the CFO of SIU. She's still awaiting those documents. I said, no, obtain all those necessary information, including the final report, outcome of the report, before I can sign those documents.
Yeah.
So interestingly, in that particular document that she compiled, it was her signature. I was going to approve, and General Masemola was supposed to concur after my approval, which I also regarded as irregular, because I cannot approve in a document where General Masemola is also going to endorse his signature. I must recommend and he must approve.
To that end, you rely on FNV 13, which starts at page 295 of the bundle. That is an information note that you addressed to the commissioner. It's unsigned, so it's unclear what your reaction would have been regarding this information note at 295. The recommendation there is that it is recommended that the Divisional Commissioner, Supply Chain Management, consider the content of the letter engagement, in particular paragraph 9.2, and provide financial and functional approval to the estimate, to the cost to be incurred. Can you speak to this document? This was signed by Dimpane. Is this the request?
This is the
The
document.
request for 8 million?
Mm.
Okay.
This is the document I'm talking about, and the attachment is only this letter of engagement, which was sent to Masemula. Now, what I've done also, because if that request came from SAPS on the 12th of November, 2021, it means the National Commission should have sanctioned the previous National Commission, General Sitol. So I even took and make an effort to call General Sitole that, did you ever sanction any investigation by SIU in regards to the PPEs? He said, no, he has never sanctioned any such. So it was questionable, this to me.
At paragraph 45, you say that the CFO informed General Masemola and Minister Cele of your position, your refusal to sign, and they were not impressed with your stance. Why do you say they were not impressed?
I'm saying they were not impressed because when I looked closer to this SIU content, I realized that this was the very same investigation that was being conducted by SIU, where I was called by Mr. Matabata on the 20th, same month of June, to be interviewed about. And I realized that this is too soon and there's no final outcome of the report. Then I told General Dimpane on the 30th, I was making a follow-up. Remember, the info note came to me on the 22nd of June. So on the 30th, I sent a WhatsApp message to Dimpane that please make sure that I receive all the necessary documentation in regard to the file that you brought to me. So when they came back, they were in Durban, I was in Pretoria. We had a meeting late in the evening. While I was discussing, it was a day that Masemola issued me with intention to suspend. While I was discussing with Masemola, Masemola mentioned also about this matter that you even did not want to sign the money that one must be paid to the SIU. The minister was not happy. Masemola said to me, he told me that.
What was the nature of yours and Masemola's, Commissioner Masemola's working relationship?
My relationship with Masemola has been a very good relationship, I must say. Even before he became the National Commissioner, we had a very good relationship. I remember, if I may, one example, when General Patlane was the acting National Commissioner, General Masemola was the DNC, and I was still a Major General by then. There were certain discussions about me. There are many projects that I led when I was still a Major General. One of the projects that I was leading was the Police Music and Cultural Association in the SAPS. So in their discussions, they will be saying, I'm too autonomous, I'm doing things, etc., on my own, etc. So Masemola will come and tell me and say, hey, be careful when you do these things, brief General Ngwenya, because when we are in our DNC's meeting with the National Commissioner, she doesn't seem to be talking good about you, and we know you're doing a good job. So I regarded Masemola as, even, I must also say, even now, when he suspended me, when I won the case of my case was finalized of the iPad on the 23rd, if I'm not mistaken, during June 2023. I went to see Masemola. So to sit down with him to say, my case has been finalized. I want to come back to work. Masemola said he was studying the judgment. Come the following day. The following day I went. He said he was going to have a meeting with the minister. I must wait for him. I waited for him in the office until late, about 6, 7 in the afternoon. Then he said, no, come back tomorrow. I came the following day. When I arrived, he also went to have a meeting with Pele, and he came back and he said, go home, state attorney will write you a letter. But our engagement and discussion was friendly. We were talking and laughing. I was even saying to Masemola, but tell me, what is the problem? What is it that I owe you so that I pay you? Why are you doing these things to me? He said, no, it's not personal. So I really don't have any bad feeling between us. There's no bad blood between us.
So you say that you had a good working relationship up until the point at which he made comments that you were not wanting to cooperate. And this issue had to do with Minister Cele. What was your working relationship with Minister Cele like?
My working relationship with Mr. Cele was official. I think when he wants me to do certain things that are like this pressure of RT 15 and this issue of the PPE where he berated me, I stand my ground. I respected him as my minister. And secondly, there wasn't a good relationship between him and the former National Commission. Now, when there are submissions submitted to his office, instead of him calling the National Commissioner, he will call me to explain those submissions. And part of when you look at the transcript that I said I did record him, you will hear where he says in one of those things that he complained to me about, that at certain stage they used to have those bi-weekly meetings with the National Commissioner up until General Mfazi came in. And in one of the meetings, he says he is aware that there was a meeting which was between DM Matale, General Stole, and Mr. Malema of the EFF. The next thing I hear, Malema insulting me on television as a result of that meeting. He was telling me all those things. And in the very same, I said, but General, why can't you resolve your issues with the National Commission? I said, it's too late. It's too late. He's going.
Lieutenant General, the question had to do with Minister Cele, and you then moved on to the former National Commissioner. It was quite unclear who you are referring to when you were dealing with the section of, other persons who are not party to that meeting were being brought, particularly Mr. Malema. If you can just maybe for the purposes of clarity, so that I understand whether you are still speaking about the minister as the question had asked, or you are referring to the former commissioner and what was particularly said, just for the record.
I am saying when there were submissions from the Office of the National Commissioner.
Which National Commissioner?
Or General Sutwell.
Yes, okay.
The minister, instead of calling the National Commission.
Minister, which minister?
Okay. He will call me to explain those submissions as such. But in the process, while we are doing the work, he will be ventilating on the frustrations he had with General Sitole. And I will not comment because Sitole was my boss. Part of it will be, Sitole is not even attending funeral of the members. And all those comments that I said earlier on, also with regard to where he said he was surprised while he is named as being ugly on television by Mr. Malema, but he realized that there was a meeting when he is being discussed
What
by the
meeting?
trio. He
And
said-
who is the trio?
He said he learned that there was a meeting where Mr. Malema, General Stolle and Matale were discussing about him. After that meeting, he started to hear negative comments about him from Mr. Malema.
Okay.
So these are the things that he will say to me. This I'm saying because it is also,
This is what the minister would say to you.
yes.
The question though to you, Lieutenant General, was what was the working relationship between you and the minister up until this point? For the past, say, 45 minutes, we have dealt with evidence where the minister seems to be interfering in your operational day-to-day work. With every single contract that you have mentioned thus far, the minister was unhappy. The minister was involving civilians. So what was your relationship like? There were threats that followed after you had taken certain actions. And the question is, stems from those particular submissions that you have made.
I did respond that the relationship was official.
So it was one of
an official relationship because he was my superior. And when he calls me, I will go and I will respect. And if he gives me legal directive or instruction, I will comply. But if I feel this one is not like the ones of swerving the investigations, I didn't. So it was official.
Okay. So there were certain instructions that you were complying to. What type of instructions did you comply to, and what did you refute, so that we are clear on what we are dealing with?
I mentioned that the submissions, he will call me so that I explain the submissions. I will go and explain the submissions. When the minister now, when he wanted me to continuously continue to explain the details of this RT15 to Mato Madlala and saying I'm moving slow. I said the due process is being followed. I can't push people to do beyond what they are supposed to be doing. So I will explain. I will even explain when he wanted me to change recommendations for Jacobs, I refused. And I said, but this is the investigation that, based on the information that was presented to me, statement and interviews, I came up with this recommendation. I can't change those so that Jacobs cannot be disciplined.
Okay. We are now at paragraph 46 of your statement. There you list a number of investigations that you conducted whilst in your role. You list a number of 20 investigations. Do you want to just perhaps elaborate on why you listed these investigations and what would you like to say about them without going into too much detail because of time?
Okay. I listed these ones, and I must say that they are not the only ones, but these are the ones that I listed in my protected disclosure. When I said that during the time when I was suspended, I was still busy with amongst this. Part of the business here had to do with, these were the outcome of the forensic investigations from internal audit. So we needed to continue finalizing their disciplinary matters. And obviously as the DNC for support, I was the one who had to write to different business units, and I was equally appointed as the disciplinarian of the organization. I was responsible to oversee the entire discipline of the SAPS. So where there are issues of discipline, it was my responsibility to communicate with relevant business units to say, institute the disciplinary matters on the following. When there were delays, I will intervene and ask for progress report.
Okay.
So these were 46.6. It was with a contract with regard to the filming system, where the final outcome of the investigation implicated the following members. It was Lieutenant General Patlane, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Smith, Colonel Hannibal, and Colonel Makoban. The next is a digital capturing system. I'll just jump the numbers just to save time. And the enhancement of latent prints implicating members from TMS and forensic services, where it named the Lieutenant General Patlane, Brigadier Mulwane, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Smith, and Colonel Nguban. The next one is a crime scene protecting stepping blades, where it implicated and named General Patlane, Major General Kuno, Major General Mangale, Major General Manamela, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Baloyi, Colonel Hannibal, Captain Mamabulu, and Captain Kuna, Major Mkhajwa, and Lieutenant Mulot. The next one is a contract with regard to crime scene lighting system for indoor and outdoor lighting of crimes scene implicating SINA, members from forensic services named Lieutenant General Patlane, Major General Manamela, Major General Kuno, Major General Mangale, Brigadier Baloyi, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Diko, Brigadier Reddy, Colonel Hannibal.
Lieutenant General, you've listed all of them and they are there, but you don't elaborate on why you list these various investigations that you were involved in. As a Lieutenant General, very senior in the SAPS, you would have conducted investigations, and all you do there is you list them. Is there anything that you want this committee to make out of the investigations, those specific ones? What should we make of those investigations?
As I said, that these were not the only one, but these are the ones that I mentioned in my protected disclosure. And I attached the detailed report. They are very detailed, what has happened in those circumstances. I may not have crammed everything inside those investigations, but if we go through, if you want, we can go through the detailed report where I can be able to explain the details of what was uncovered. For example, there was also one which I now remember in terms of, okay, now the one that I'm looking at now, 46.11, if I may elaborate on it. Because
was this part of, were these investigations that you were conducting in your day-to-day work within SAPS, or were these specific type of investigations where you had seen involvement of seniors, whether it is the two seniors that you had been mentioning prior to getting to this paragraph? So up until this point, you have specifically set out that Minister Cele was unhappy about my actions here. Minister Cele was unhappy about my refusal at this point. General Mesumula warned me to not refuse and to remove the minister's name. At this point, you just list the investigations, perhaps not without going into detail about the outcome of each investigation. You say that it was part of the protected disclosures that you made. Are you alleging interference in these investigations? What is it that the committee must make of these?
Okay.
Because there's no paragraph to elaborate.
Okay. What I am saying here, I mentioned these investigations in my protected disclosure due to the reason that as I said, that in the execution of my duties, I worked with internal audit. I will dispatch internal audit to certain business units to conduct audit. And as and when they discover some irregularities, I will sign the mandate for the in-depth forensic investigation so that they go deep in finding what are the issues that need to be uncovered under those particular. Some of them, for example, were as a result of the contracts. The contracts will be, for example, in one of these, the contract for cabling at Telkom Towers, as I said that. So there will be detailed information. Now, the reason why I put these in the protected disclosure, I said I put this because I was busy with them in ensuring that the outcome of these investigations, disciplinary steps are being instituted and made follow up on them, on the people that are named on this, which I'm saying maybe because General Masemula, for example, in the briefing that I attached there, where I was briefing him with litigation and other issues, there were 4 cases that were pending at the Triple SPC and some in court. So when I mentioned those, he said, why are you not just leaving these things, not attending to it? So my suspicion was maybe because I was busy with these things and making follow up and ensuring that disciplinary steps are instituted in relevant business units. It might have been one of the reasons that they decided to remove me from the office.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant General. If we can then move on to the next project that you investigated. It is the mandate to investigate Project 1000 recruitment process. There you say that you had an intake of new recruits in the different academies, and some of them were at the training facility at the South African Defence Force in Kimberley. What were the complaints that you say you were receiving? What were they pertaining to?
During 2022, we were given an opportunity as SAPS to employ 10,000 members. And majority of those members, we had to take them from the current, at the time, reservists who were in the reservist program. So because of the capacity we have, we could not accommodate all these students in our academies. Part of the students were accommodated at Kimberley in the SNDF training college. So while the students were there, they complained about the accommodation, they complained about, they were hosted in tents. They were, the food they were eating, they were not happy with it. And some were complaining with regards to them not having passed all the processes, especially the reservists, but they were left, they did not attend the training.
What steps did you take? Once you became aware?
I went to to Kimberley itself to find out, to experience, because they were even in the media, all these complaints. I went to Kimberley to find out what were the challenges, and I could see that they were sitting in tents, being accommodated in tents in their training. Even the mess was congested. It wasn't big enough to, even the manner they preparing food. So I came back with a team. I wasn't alone. And I recommended to General Masemula that we needed to remove those students from the training institution in Kimberley. And General Masemula agreed and said, myself with the team must look at alternative venues. While we're looking at alternative venues around Gauteng as well as the Mpumalanga, we went to see a facility in Bedford View. We also went to see a facility somewhere in Mpumalanga. And when we came back to brief the National Commissioner, it was also on that day of the 30th when the National Commissioner informed me that he is under pressure to suspend me. Now,
So what,
finally, on the 8th of July, he suspended me.
you attach a report FNV 52 in support of your recommendations and the steps you took after the Project 1000.
Yeah.
And that can be found at page 1405 of the paginated bundle. You then deal with threats to your life after all the various investigations that you listed. You state that from around February 2021, you began to receive intimidating messages, which you reported to General Sithole. So this would have been before, under General Sithole being was General Sithole the commissioner at the time when the threats began?
Yes.
In 2021, okay, that's why you read. And he instructed you to write a statement for the purpose of conducting a threat assessment on your life. Was that threat assessment conducted?
Yes, it was conducted by crime intelligence.
What were the findings?
The findings confirmed that there is indeed a threat to such an extent that General Sithole wanted to beef up my security at home as well as give me the protectors. But I rejected it, I must say, that I said I'm comfortable with the one driver that I had. I know God will protect me. There is something I omitted, and I know we are running for time to mention in regard.
Lieutenant General, it is your statement and your evidence. At the point at which we reach the time, it will end, our testimony will end. So whatever time you take, just be cognizant that, we haven't dealt with all the evidence.
Okay, there is something critical on this project, 10,000. That is why I think I put it on here, because the mandate that I signed produced a preliminary report on the 8th of July when I was suspended. It was a preliminary report which highlighted discrepancies in regards to what happened in that process of recruitment. Now, after my suspension, the final report was never produced because General Nkosi was taken back to the post of being the chief audit executive. Okay.
Okay. So you say that once okay, if I could just maybe deal with that last part. You say that the final audit was never produced and that Major General Nkosi then was taken back to the audit
Chief executive.
What is the relevance of that?
I'm saying the reason why General Nkosi was preferred to be the chief audit executive to such an extent that even the minister fought for his removal is because she was able to do anything they asked her to do.
Okay. Going back to paragraph 54, which is where we were, once the SSA conducted the assessment, they made recommendations, but you refused to take additional security. At paragraph 54, you say that you were also informed by Brigadier Matebula that Minister Cele, Lieutenant General Ngwenya, and others held meetings where they hatched up plans to falsely implicate you in non-existent PPE corruption. You mentioned this under the section that threats to your life. What is the relationship between that statement and the threats that you were experiencing on your life?
The relationship here has got to do with the fact that The minister felt that during the time of the PPE, remember when I said we were given companies, etc., and which General Reid tried his best, but he was regarded as refusing not to purchase from those companies. So when the information said they wanted to implicate me in relation to the PPEs, I believe that it has to do with that particular matter. So they wanted to deal with me as if I deliberately did not want to support the minister on what he wanted, but it was not true. How can they want to implicate me on false things?
Okay. Just for the sake of completion, at your paragraph there, you say that the plans were to falsely implicate you, but you go on further and you say, upon not being successful to make the charges stick, they resorted that you be killed. How did you come to know this?
Because-
That the minister, these are serious allegations, that the minister and Lieutenant General Mgwenya would have wanted to kill you. How did you come to know that information?
The person who called me told me that he was in that meeting when that discussion took place. And he said, I must not take this thing lightly.
Okay. Did you ever confront the minister about it?
I never confronted him.
Did you open a
I
case?
only informed my immediate supervisor, who was General Stone, who also took those initiatives that a threat assessment be conducted by crime intelligence.
And as a result of that threat assessment, in the middle of the paragraph, you say a week later, you were called by state security officials
Yes.
who interviewed you and recommended that you be provided with state protection. And this would have been as a result of
Those.
their investigation that the minister wants you killed. You then rely on FNV 10 for that statement. And FNV 10 is at and is a statement by you which starts at page 256 of the paginated bundle. Yeah. For the sake of time, we will not go into it, but it is the statement that you would have filed
Through the state security.
through SSA requesting for intervention. Okay. Were there any criminal charges laid against the minister
No,
and against Lieutenant General Mgwenya?
no.
No further steps were taken?
No.
Okay. If we can then proceed to paragraph 55.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, perhaps I can summarize. At paragraph 55, you say that on the 11th of May, 2023, approximately midnight, an armed robbery occurred where 3 men came straight into your bedroom and pointed guns at you, firearms at you, wearing balaclavas. They took all the gadgets and some items in your house. This would have been after the threat assessment would have been conducted and you refused additional support for protection. And then subsequently to that, your home was, there was a burglary. Would you like to comment about that paragraph?
Yes, it is happening now when I'm on suspension. And I must say that in my analysis, I think it happened as a result of, because we were exchanging paper. There was a matter, my matters that were pending in the SSBC. And a week thereafter, we were going to appear. And a week before, we exchanged papers. And I attached this transcript in one of those bundles, which is so long, where I had an engagement with the minister. So these people came to my house in the middle of the night, pointing me with guns, taking, they first went for the gadgets, and then I created a conversation with them, I must say, with their leader. And they said, they confirmed, he confirmed to me that, yeah, we know that you are a police, we know that you have a firearm, we know you have a safe. And I said, how do you know that? He told me that, yeah, they've been sent to kill me.
Who did they say sent them?
I asked, they didn't say. So while they were doing that, saying, where is the safe? Where is your firearm? I just surrendered to them. I said, Mina, I've been dismissed by the police. I'm at home. I'm just an ordinary woman. I have nothing. The police took everything, all their equipment, which was true. They took everything. So I started to have a conversation with this guy, and he started, in fact, to protect me, to say to the other two, go away, go and do whatever, take whatever you want, leave Mama alone. Then when we were conversing with this guy, he said, yeah, these people, but he did not tell me who are they. They've sent me here because I am the one who's terrorizing this community around here. He even told me that 2 weeks ago he was shot at the back, etc., and all those things. I said, what exactly do you want? He said, we've been sent to get things, amongst others. We also were sent to kill you.
Well, you are seated on the witness seat. They obviously did not kill you. Were you harmed in any way? How did that confrontation end?
They sat with me in the footage because I have cameras that goes to my bedroom for 40 minutes. Now, he said they also wanted some gadgets from who do I have in the house. I told him I'm just with children. Then he said, okay, they will go to the children. After they turned my room upside down. So they were searching for something, which I don't know what is it that they were searching, but they took all the iPad, iPhone, the laptops.
Were they ever recovered, those gadgets?
Never.
Okay. Lieutenant General, if we can just then move on. We are at paragraph 56 of your statement.
But it's important to mention that they came almost 4 times. When they came for the second time, fortunately, I locked, there's a security gate that goes to the bedroom, so they couldn't go through. Then they went down, they took TVs and everything. 3 consecutive times. When they came for the 4th time, we now knew they will jump one day and come the following day, maybe in the mornings of the following day with the police. So the police and the security knew the area where they are jumping towards my house. They waited for them and they shot one of them. The other one was arrested.
Did they ever reveal the person who sent them now that they were arrested? The person was arrested.
The day when this one who was shot on the legs, walking on the crutches, was coming to point out, they said there was a confession statement.
Did you see the confession statement?
I didn't see it, but the investigator told me that they have a confession statement, and he called me that they are coming. He is coming to point out my house. So on that day, the guy was supposed to be taken to the doctor. The guy went to the doctor, and on their way back, when they were supposed to come to my house, the constable and the sergeant and warrant officer, they say they were called by a colonel who said they must go to Mamelodi police station. On arrival at Mamelodi station, they were told to go and verify the address of the suspect. When they arrived there, they found the criminals, a lot of them standing with firearms, who threatened them that they must leave this suspect or else they are going to be killed. This is what happened, and those constable and warrant officer were charged for that particular matter.
General, what I'm unable to perhaps follow at this stage of your evidence is that a threat assessment was done by SSA. SSA offered you additional security.
Sorry. Chair, I know we're not interrupting. It's not a question of clarity. If the Lieutenant General can just explain that whole process again on what happened with the arrest and the shooting, because we missed a lot of it. Just, I don't know if I'm the only one. Please just again, slowly, Lieutenant General, step by step. Thank you. I know we are rushing for time, but there is a lot of information that I intended to share, which poses the risk that I enjoyed and experienced. That is why I was pushing for this. This one I really wanted. Now, these criminals came to my house 3 times and they got into my house. When they came for the 4th time, there are dockets. There is a brigadier and colonels who can attest to what I'm saying. They were shot. One was shot 11 bullets. And that person has since died in the cells because he was heavily shot. The other one who was shot on the legs was on crutches and made a confession. And on their way, when they had to do a pointing out at my house, he had to go and attend to the doctor first. They were going to come at 11. And they said to me, they needed to make sure whether I must go away or I must stay in the house when he came for a pointing out. Now, on their way from the hospital or the doctor, the warrant officer and the sergeant were called by a colonel who said, go to Mamelodi police station. When they were at Mamelodi police station, they said they were called that go and verify the address of the suspect that you are with. They went to the address. When they arrived there, they said they found a lot of criminals with firearms who said, you leave this suspect or we shoot you. Then they left the suspect. When they went back, they were subjected to disciplinary processes for losing the suspect. For whatever reason, one of those, I can't remember what is the sergeant warrant officer, happened to discuss this matter with somebody who knew me and requested to have an appointment to come and explain to me what has happened. That guy came to my house to explain that they are being subjected to disciplinary process for losing a suspect, which was not their doing. It was as a result of the colonel who called them to go to Mamelodi and verify the address. And the warrant, it was a sergeant, because he said the warrant officer was due for retirement and he is on stress. He's not coming to work because of this disciplinary process.
Okay, General, Lieutenant General, we don't have much time and you are deviating away from your statement. And my worry is that we will not cover all your evidence as you've presented in your statement, because we have to stay within your statement. And I understand that some of these matters you wish to elaborate on. What is unclear, as I was asking before, the honourable member requested clarity, is you were offered, an assessment threat was done, and the assessment threat came back positive, that indeed you are under threat, real threat. You also testified that the minister wanted to have you killed. And upon the assessment threat being done by SSA, this was confirmed. They offered you protection. This was before the 4 burglaries that you have now detailed in the past few minutes. What is unclear, General, is that protection is provided because there is a serious threat on your life. You refuse the protection and want to stay only with the your driver. And then the first burglary happens. You don't request the same protection that you were offered. the second burglary, I'm not saying the burglaries didn't happen. I'm just struggling to understand and follow your evidence as somebody who was very senior, having been a DNC since 2017 and understanding the ins and outs of the police work way better than I do. Perhaps if you can assist the committee to understand your thoughts around why you would have refused this kind of assistance.
Thank you very much. I think you are missing the point. The protection was offered in 2021. I wasn't on suspension. I was still at work. The attack happened in 2023. When I'm on suspension. So there is a gap between the two incidents. And I also want to mention that in as much as some of the information is not in my statement, but me and you agreed that I will be given a chance to elaborate on these things, because for the committee to be able to understand, I think it is important that I'm given an opportunity to elaborate on serious issues. Some of the others we can pass, but this one to me is very serious because I really enjoyed being paid.
I think that's helpful. What's helpful now with the testimony you've given is to show the difference in dates, that what you were testifying about earlier was 2021, and you then went into incidences that occurred 2 years later, which is where we were sort of like unable to follow. So you say following your suspension, then further threats and incidences took place even after you had left and whilst you were on suspension. And that's the evidence that you were giving in the last 15 minutes. Okay, I think we follow. If we can then perhaps touch the topic at page 23 of your statement, which is paragraph 56, deals with General Masemula's abuse of disciplinary process. When was this abuse? Which period are you relating to?
Chair. Thank you, Chair. I just want to make double sure is the general finish with the point that she wants to expound on before we move on, because it's her statement and she must share how she wants to be led. So I just want to make sure.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I wanted also to add something on this particular matter, because after the first, on the 11th, I was informed by the police who were in a meeting that there was a meeting called by the minister. And in that meeting, it was all provincial commissioners, it was National Management Forum. And it was a special meeting for that matter. And an item for high-profile cases was placed by the minister. But when that item arrived, only my case was discussed. And it was between the minister and the then provincial commissioner of Gauteng, General Mawela, explaining what has happened. After everything, they will continue to the agenda, and the minister said, let's go back, man, to that case, hello, ma'am. They went back to my case. And the minister asked a question, which I suspect that those coming after the 11th, they wanted to get at me. But because I locked my security gate towards the bedroom, they couldn't go through. I think that's all I wanted to add. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lieutenant General. We are now at paragraph 56 of your statement. And there, at paragraph 56, the topic is General Masemula's abuse of the disciplinary process.
Thank you. I don't know, because I need to explain whether you will allow me. Okay, firstly, I was suspended for the iPad matter.
You can
Okay.
explain, General.
Okay. Firstly, I was suspended for the iPad matter where the Judge Davis pronounced that myself, General Tole, and General Tsumane have breached the iPad Act by not providing documentation that was required by iPad for the purposes of investigation. And I went through the process, and SSBC issued a verdict, a ruling in that regard. And after that ruling, that is when I said, I went to General Masemola to say, because initially in the initial suspension, he said, I must not come to work until the case is finalized. So now the case is finalized and I want to go to work. Then he says, the state attorney will write me a letter. And the state attorney writes me a letter that stay at home until we are reviewing the matter. Okay. Now, while they are saying they are reviewing a matter, I'm served with other charges of the PPE, where they say I was a chairperson of the supply chain steering committee and I allowed a company, Red Roses, to be issued with a court order for the PPE without following the due processes. Now, in that process, I lodged for unlawful suspension of unfair labor practice with the SSBC. There were 4 cases. While we were dealing with those cases of unfair labor practice, I then withdrew one of the case because it went through the normal and the number of days that are in the discipline regulation, meaning I was suspended for 90 days and I was comfortable that it complied. The other 3 were out of the ordinary. Now, I applied to SSBC that those cases, because there are 3, it means there must be 3 different commissioners appointed for them. And it is costly to go through that particular process. So I applied for them to be consolidated. Firstly, there was an application by General Masemola say it does not restrict those. Reason being, according to them, I should have lodged grievances, internal process grievance. Now, how do you lodge an internal grievance process when you are outside? So there was a ruling in that regard. A commissioner was appointed to deal with that matter in terms of the point in the meaning. The ruling said the challenge by Masemola was that SSBC does not have a jurisdiction. Now the ruling said, no, they do have a jurisdiction to deal with those matters. So there was a ruling in that regard. Then I also applied for the consolidation, so that because they all deal with the same matter, unlawful suspension, let's have one commissioner to deal with it. Masemola opposed. While opposing, the SSBC appointed a panel and the approval was granted for consolidation. Now, when the 3rd sitting was in regard to dealing with the merits of those 3 cases. I dealt with the merits of those 3 cases over a number of days, where Masemola was represented by his legal services as well as the senior and junior counsel in the hearing. When after presenting my case, Masemola was supposed to come and present his response. We sat for 2 days with those lawyers. When they were just reading every document they have. Do you see what is written here is written? Masemola never came. He never came while they were manufacturing this case. So this case came as a result of that. because I rubbished amongst others that I was never chairperson of supply chain and I never dealt with the issues of procurement. I advised the divisional commission on legal PFMA, what is it that they need to do. But the practical work is done by a divisional commission. I don't deal with that. So this was the case that came on a expeditious process again. And when this case came, I took General Masemola to court. When I took him to court, it was in October 2020, I think 4. When we were in court, Masemola brought and I will be touching as I explain this in some of the paragraphs. Masemola came with an offer in October in court to say he's preparing an offer. Then the court granted us an opportunity to say, now that your employer wants to give you an offer, let me give you time to go and deal with this offer, and gave us the date of February the 5th, 2025, so that they will make the offer an order of the court. October, November, December, January, we waited. No offer came from us. They were buying for time. Come February the 5th, we went to court. When we are in court, is only when we are in court they are producing an offer. So the offer, amongst others, proposed that I withdraw all my unlawful suspension cases that are pending in the SSPC. They will equally withdraw the 2 cases that I won, that they alleged were they were reviewing it, but there was no record in the court to show that they were reviewing it, which we agreed. Then the courts, we agreed with them that the charges that they are giving, saying I have irregularly procured procurement, will be dealt with in a normal process, which is Regulation 9 and 11. It was an order of the court, as charges were articulated in the order. That was February 2025. We kept on corresponding, my lawyer, asking, when are you taking us to court? Because Regulation 8 has got time frames under which a matter must be finalized. But it never happened up until when the chairperson of the portfolio committee on police, Honorable Cameron, wrote to the Minister of Police now in November last year to say, how far are you with the following issues? One of the issues was this matter. It was on the 19th of November. Now, when they do that on the 19th of November, on the 28th, they serve me with papers. I must appear to the disciplinary hearing on the 8th to the 12th December. But the documents are over 1,000 and they start from 145. Other pages are missing. The documents were just mixed up. And I just had undergone an operation. But when we requested for the postponement, they said, no, you must go. I went on the 8th, but I connected virtually while the lawyers were sitting in the hearing. We presented the point in limine, highlighting all these discrepancies and the challenges and the fact that they have breached the court order, which said, the court order that said this matter should have been dealt in terms of the discipline regulation. And it is more than almost a year that they didn't deal with those matters. We presented all these points and the chairperson said we needed to exchange papers. They gave us time to exchange papers between ourselves. We changed the papers up until it was supposed to be the 12th of January, but it became the 9th of January when all papers were finalized. Then, in terms of discipline regulation, The chairperson of the hearing had 5 days to issue a verdict, meaning from the 12th up to date, they should have issued a ruling. But the verdict was never issued. When we inquired, she said she only started to work on the document on the 26th of January, which is fine. Even if she started to work on the document on the 26th of January. It was on Monday, 26th. So 5 days by Friday, she should have been able by the 30th to issue a verdict. It was never issued up until on the 11th of February, we received a letter from State Attorney that says, we have instructed the chairperson not to issue the verdict because your client has since retired. In a summary.
The evidence that you have just given starts at paragraph 56 of your statement, and it ends at paragraph 62.
Yes.
The relevant documents that confirm what you have testified are part of the bundle as annexure if NV 34 up to 36. Okay. The next section is starts at paragraph 63, and those are the IPID matters.
Now, thank you, Chairperson. I don't know if
Thank you, Chair. I see the evidence leader is skipping this part, which I regard as very important. You have got a PEE tender whose main allegation, whose main finding is about the inflation of prices. That Red Roses sold to SAPS a PPP material whose prices were highly inflated to an extent or to an excess of 600 million rand. Now you get charged for that, but the only part you say you play is that you provide a legal advice in respect of the PFMMA. So you don't really tell us what role do you play in the process of actually awarding the tender. Or put differently, what practical role did you play in the awarding of the tender to Red Roses? I think it's a very critical part because you go further and say there were disciplinary processes wrongly used against you. But there is this, which is part of what they say they are disciplining you on. So it's incumbent upon us to know what is your role in that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I summarize because I was pushed that you are pressed for time, but I can explain, I can elaborate.
Yeah, although we are, but we shouldn't compromise quality.
Okay, thank you very much. Firstly, when this particular order was dealt with by SAPS, I was the Deputy National Commissioner for Supply for Asset and Legal Support Services. Yeah, it's 2020 for Asset and Legal. So there was a divisional commissioner who was responsible for day-to-day activities of the division supply chain management, which was Lieutenant General Reid, who dealt with this matter. General Reid, from the document which I have even attached, received documents from National Treasury because of it was public knowledge that PPEs are not available in the market. Then he received this matter, and during that time, when PPEs were being procured. SAPS was using emergency delegation. Emergency delegation, which is coupled with Treasury Regulation 16A, where it says in circumstances when it is impractical or impossible to obtain quotations, the emergency delegation can be invoked. So during that period, SAPS realized that they are not able to get the PPEs and the price was escalation. So over and above that delegation of National Treasury or Instruction Note 8 of 2019 and 20, as well as Regulation 16 I've just mentioned, the SAPS applied to the National Commissioner to deviate from normal procurement process because of the fact that the market, they don't have stock, and which company, or how will you do a competitive bidding when there is no stock in the market? So to deviate from normal competitive bidding. Now, normal competitive bidding relates to a situation where it is divided in terms of thresh values. The first value, it was an amount of 2,000 Rand, which is you just call and get a quotation and you buy. It's called PT cash. The next one was the 143 quotation. The 143 quotation, at the time it was up to a delegation of 500,000. You can request a quotation or more and do a competitive bidding. The one above that is the one that is called where they advertise a tender. Anything beyond or above 500,000, a bid must be advertised. Those are three requirements of the competitive bidding. Over and above that, there is a fourth one in terms of a directive, which is called a sole service supplier bidding. So a sole service supplier becomes a supplier that is the only supplier in the country that supply that particular service. And the fifth one is a process where a supplier himself, not now the department, who comes up with a unique proposal that has never been done in the country and propose, then they negotiate against that such. There are three types of competitive bidding. That's what I wanted to explain. Now, the emergency procurement, you only deal, because we wanted to save the life and limb, you only issue order to the company that can be able to supply immediately. So competitive bidding was not applicable in that regard. So the deviation was obtained from the National Commission for that. And also for the price escalation was obtained and approved that we can, for sake of protecting the lives of the police, because they were being infected by the coronavirus and they were dying. We needed, and they were implementing regulations. Some people were refusing to interact with them when they were not wearing the PPEs. So those were the directives that assisted supply chain to be able to deal with the PPEs. And all PPEs, I must emphasize that fact, all PPEs from the very first 15th of the declaration of the State of the Nation disaster up until somewhere in April were procured exactly the same manner. They did not do competitive bidding. So this one, REIT receives it from National Treasury. They say they can be able to assist the organization quickly to get the PPEs. REIT dealt with it. He purchased the PPEs from this particular company. And the PPEs were delivered. Now, I said earlier on that the first few months, the first few days, before the end of the financial year, this one was issued on the 1st of April. The others were before the 1st of April. There was money that was taken from cost centers that were not going to utilize it, and orders were issued, and those orders were committed. So we could not be able to utilize that money. But because those orders were issued under the emergency delegation, those companies were given between 24 to 48 hours to deliver. When they failed to deliver, we had to follow on the legal route of letters of demand and finally cancelling those orders. And it is only after you have cancelled those orders, you can be able to get that money that was already committed. So with regard to this one, the CFO function went to National Treasury to negotiate to get additional funding because the other 140 million was already committed, and the deliveries were coming in very small quantities. Now, when National Treasurer gave SAPS money, and the CFO allocated 590 something million to this particular exercise to general rate. They dealt with that, and they followed the very same directives that I've just explained. Deliveries were done. Now, what we have done also with the 140 million companies that could not deliver, we followed the legal due process and the orders were cancelled. Even this one, there are some of the deliveries that they did not meet. The orders were cancelled. Now, those that were cancelled were not, those that were not cancelled, they delivered. Now, there comes the audit. All those between March up until August were subjected to the audit process, all those procurement of PPEs. During that period of audit, there was a concern, of course. National Treasurer provided in that practice note an attachment, Annex A, of the prices, the range of prices that PPEs must be between this amount and this amount. Now, the 25-liter sanitizer was not included in that annex. It not being included in that annexure, this company delivered the 25 liters, quoted on a 25 liters. So General Reid went back to National Treasury to say, this company can only deliver 25 liters because we needed huge quantities. Treasurer said you can take. There are documents to show that how General Reid kept on asking for advice from National Treasurer. And once National Treasurer gave the approval, even National Treasurer gave the approval to Reid that now we have checked all your documents, you can proceed. Reid proceeded. The audit, when the audit came, they queried that sanitizer against the 20 liter, not 25 liter, that the price was too high. It was against the Annex A of prices by National Treasury. But when they highlighted that no, there was no 25 liter on.
But do you have proof that what was procured was 25 liters, not 20 liters? So hence it won't corroborate with the pricing.
No, they purchased 25 liter, not 20 liter.
Yes, and the National Treasury priced the 20 liters. So did you have proof that instead of what the National Treasury said you must procure, you procured 25 liters of sanitizer instead of 20 liters, so that you are able to explain and mitigate the situation you found yourselves in?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As I'm saying that anything that Reid was doing, he was communicating. There was an approval from Treasurer that you can proceed with 25 liters because you needed huge quantities. Now, when the audit arrived, Auditor General came to audit the process to get, as well as internal audit audited. There was that concern, Honorable, that the price was high. Then National Treasury, there's even an explanation of that price. They calculated and they explained. They even wrote to Auditor General explaining that because this particular price of 25 liter was not in the annex, they provided a methodology of calculating, and they said the price was not above what was prescribed in their methodology. There is an explanation as part of the annex. Now, the issue with SIU, I think I need to explain it. The issue with SIU is when they were conducting their own investigation, they discovered that the company where they sourced these sanitizers, they paid, and I will make an example because that is not, they paid something like 1,000, for example, for that particular 25 liters, but they charge SAPS, for example, 4,000. So the difference between these two is above the required profit margin. It was 200 and something SD. So this is the issue for SIU, something that SAPS could not have control of. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Lieutenant General Vuma, my understanding was that you, as you set out in at the beginning of paragraph 56, that you wanted to set out the abuse of the institution by General Masimola. I didn't understand your evidence to be going back into the merits of matters that have already been decided. So the reason why we didn't go into detail, Honorable Mola, is because those matters have been decided. And what the General was highlighting was that she was subjected to numerous disciplinary hearings, but not necessarily the merits thereof. If we can then go to the second section at paragraph 63, which is IPID matters.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. As I said earlier on, and I don't know if I will be allowed to explain this matter of iPad in detail, where is it emanating from? Because earlier on I tried and the advocate felt that we are not yet there. I wanted to explain the very same matter of Judge Davis, where it started, so that I'm able to come into this.
Yeah, General, I don't mean to interject in your evidence. Your evidence at earlier paragraphs, you said that you would be coming to testify before this committee that is investigating infiltration into law enforcement, as well as by civilians, and that you had knowledge to assist the committee. My understanding was that in pointing out the various cases, you were doing it to show the abuse of the system, but not necessarily delving into cases that have been decided by judges. I don't mean to curtail your evidence, but I just need to check if that is the same understanding that you have.
Correct.
Okay, let's do it like this. How much more time do you need to, because the 1 o'clock has passed, and I thought I would get a signal that we are at the end of presentation of evidence. Where are we and how much more time do we need? My members have been overworked in the last week and this week, and we need a sufficient break. How much more time do we need?
Chairperson, I actually am not sure how much time the General will still need. The challenge is that we aren't following the normal fashion of leading evidence, and it's quite challenging for me at this stage.
What we do is that we must break now for a minimum of 40 minutes, so that yourself and General Vuma can also have time to talk between yourselves and agree on the themes that you want to deal with when you come back, and agree on the time that you are going to need. I have been observed that the reason why I've been very quiet was because I wanted to give you time. She has not said it explicitly, but she has been silently calling for that time to say, allow me to explain this, allow me to explain that. So if you, during the break, you can meet and agree that, yeah, on her part in particular, if she can say, evidence leaders, please give me a chance. I want to ventilate on the following issues. Not something unusual. Witnesses have come before us previously. Some we even said, we thought we will finish today. You will have to come back tomorrow. She is a senior general or a senior rank in the South African Police Service. And she needs to be equally treated like many other officers of her rank who have appeared before us. You must not live here with a feeling that she was differently treated. So I just want to appeal to both of you that go and find each other during the break. And when you come back here, the time that you give us, General, we are going to hold you onto it. Is that fair? Thank you so much. Honorable members, Honorable Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Just some housekeeping. Andile is not here to be able to report to us. Is there any reason why you can't engage the speaker on the status of opening the case and give us a report? Because it's like now 7 days, 80 days, just on that. So maybe after lunch, you can come and give us a report, Chair, on just the status and more or less when the case will be opened. We're not putting pressure or telling the speaker what to do. And then also in our meeting, you were supposed to, or you gave direction that letter regarding the forensic investigator from the speaker must be circulated, and it's not there in the group. And I've been asking the secretariat and we don't have it. So if that can please be made available, because you also said we must make submissions and we'd like to make submissions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Delana and Andile are here. They will sort out the matters that you are raising. They are all ears. Can we break Delana and Ramano? I'm sorry. Can we break, honorable members, and come back at 2 o'clock?